Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast. I'm mostly in the office. I got all my RGB monitors and stuff, and I'm building like a gaming station thing over here. I'll give a video tour as soon as it's done. I still don't have the camera on my iPhone fixed. I went to the Apple store and they said it would be 5 hours to fix it, so I'll do that next week or something. But yeah, I love it. I've already been able to do so much testing, and I've only been in this office for like 2 days now, so this is pretty cool. So thank you guys so much for all your help. Also, I unplugged and turned off everything in this room except a computer and the fluorescent lights. So if we still get some kind of buzz or weird audio noise, it's got to be maybe the lights. So I'll just try it next week with the lights off and like a lamp on or something. But please let me know how the audio works and if you guys have any feedback on it. But for now, let's jump right into the news. First up, RetroGamingCables sent me a prototype of the fully shielded Pack-a-Punch cables. So I have SNES and Genesis with me now, and I will start testing soon. I should have a video up next week, or at the very least pictures posted of comparisons between the two. But having the fully shielded cable, so the biggest difference is other shielded cables that I've seen, just the outside is shielded, but none of the interior cables. Whereas this one, each individual cable on the inside is shielded. So that's where it's going to make all the big difference for things like the sync on composite video with the jail bars leaking over. So I will have a comparison video on this soon. I just wanted to show it off, let you guys know it's coming. I'm not sure when they'll be available for sale, but I think it'll be within a week or two. But I'll tweet about it as soon as they are. It looks like there were a few more updates to the VeriSNES project, which is the FPGA SNES. It looks like a lot of steps forward were made, and the video is looking pretty darn good. So I'm still not really sure what the end result of this project is going to be, but I hope it ends up in something where I could play SNES through an FPGA on an HD TV or something. But as always, I'll keep everybody updated when there's any real progress. Next, it looks like something called the Xsaturn Gamers cartridge is back in stock. And I think I've heard about this before, but I'm still not quite sure what it does, because it says it plays import games, and if you could play a CDR backup copy of your games. I don't really understand what that means. So is this like a mod chip that you just plug into the cartridge slot of a Saturn? But the main feature is that it's an SD memory card. So it's an SD card interface, and all of your Saturn game saves go on that rather than like a flash card. So if anybody has any other info on that, please let me know. It seems pretty interesting. Next, it looks like the latest version of the high-def NES firmware might be the final version. Vectrex said the FPGA is completely full, and he's done pretty much all the work he can on it, as well as being completely swamped with a lot of other paid work that he's doing, so he doesn't really have time to look into it anymore. He said eventually there might be a bug fix if anybody finds something, or maybe an update to the Famicom audio, but don't hold your breath on that. That's probably, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Kevin, but I would have to think that's a year away. So, you know, I would buy it being very happy with what it is right now. I like his words of it's a mature product. It's out there and been tested. It works great. And, you know, so just when you purchase it now, you get, you know, what you get is what you get, but you get a great product. So I just figured I'd let everybody know in case anybody was holding off for another feature. This is pretty much it, and I would call it a huge win. It looks like the Neo Geo Pocket Color ROM cart has arrived. That's like a whole lot of acronyms. And I guess they'll be shipping out soon enough. GadgetUK actually put one up for a review last week, and somehow I missed it, which is weird because I follow him on YouTube. But so it's here for anybody interested, and I'm excited because you know, I'm excited for the main reason I love all ROM carts, in that there are so many games that I always wanted to try that I wasn't sure if they were great games that I would love or if they were just rare and expensive. So now I get to go through and really try out the Neo Geo Pocket Color library. Jesus, Neo Geo Pocket Color ROM cart. God. A new collection of Vectrex homebrew games is about to go up for sale. 7 games created by Chris Malcolm are now going to be available on one $25 Vectrex cartridge. And most of them look pretty cool. I'm a fan of the Vectrex after my cousin Scott forced me to buy one so I could experience it, and it was very cool. I'm really glad I did. So thanks to my buddy Chris for passing this along, and any fans of the Vectrex should definitely check this out. There's a fun Super Mario Kart ROM hack available on romhacking.net. It's called Reversed and Remixed. It's basically just all of the tracks that you play in reverse, but I thought it was pretty cool and at least fun enough to mention here. Somebody recently uploaded a video explaining the backstory of what happened with that mysterious backlit Game Boy Color mod. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's an 18-minute video of speculation and just talking, so I don't recommend watching that at all, but I'll give you the 30-second version. Apparently, the mod was real. It used a line doubler board and then an LCD screen that is literally double the resolution of the original Game Boy Color screen, so that you're able to get perfect integer scaling into it, so the aspect ratio stays the same. It's backlit, and apparently it looks really good, but the guy got thousands of orders and just disappeared. So I think this video said he got sick, which would suck. I hope that's not true. I would just assume that the guy went, holy crap, this, I can't do 1,000 of these, and just kind of forgot about it. But I guess there's one floating around on Australia's eBay page for like $400 if anybody's interested. But I really hope whoever did the mod resurfaces, and if nothing else, just posts links to boards, maybe a GitHub or something, because any Game Boy Color fan would definitely want this. Having a real backlit mod for it. I mean, of course, you could just use the AGS 101 screens on the Game Boy Advances, but there's just something about playing on the original console and, the way it was meant to be. So I really hope this surfaces again somehow, but as of now, it's looking like a dead project, unfortunately. Next, that Sega Genesis operating system now has folder browsing capabilities, and I still have no idea what you could possibly use a Genesis OS for, but I still love it. I still love that somebody is just making the Genesis do something that no one would have ever guessed. So thanks very much to Smoke Monster for passing along the link. Next, speaking of Smoke Monster, he's just updated his Genesis ROM pack. So almost all of his ROM sets were updated at the beginning of the month, and I think he just re-updated the Genesis one to add a bunch of new stuff he found, including a working ROM of Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 2 combined. So if you guys remember correctly, when Sonic and Knuckles came out, it had lock-on technology. It's kind of clever. So the Sonic and Knuckles game, you were able to then stick on Sonic 3 and play through as Knuckles and have your saved game. And I really honestly thought this was a brilliant idea even back then. And I don't think it got old. I think it's still fun. And you could also play Sonic 2 with Knuckles. So that ROM was never really working properly, but it is now. So now everybody has a chance to experience it kind of in a fun new way. Next, there's some progress in the open source Dreamcast HDMI project. Citrus 3000 PSI apparently had some of the boards that Chris 2600 had posted, and he's made some good progress with it. But he said if anyone wants to do a wire install with the dev boards, to contact him. And he's deciding whether it's going to only support both or the VA0 or the VA0 and VA1 motherboards. So if you guys are interested in that stuff, definitely check out the forum posts and see if you want to contribute. And if not, I'll just keep updating it here and let everybody know about its progress. Next, HDRetrovision just posted a cool link on their site to an aftermarket PSU that's both cheap and tested under a scope to be good. They're UL certified, so they should be consistent, and they're pretty inexpensive. The only downsides of it are there's a bright blue power LED that might annoy some people. I would just put a black piece of tape over it, but also you need jumper adapters for everything. So just this main PSU as is, I don't think will fit in anything, but like for Genesis, you would want to put in this adapter. And each of the adapters are cheap, but you still have to buy them. If you wanted to play SNES, you actually would have to go through a different one. and then into the SNES adapter, which you get from console 5. So, there are a few scenarios where you could actually have an adapter plugged into an adapter plugged into the thing. But overall, it's a cheap solution, and, those OEM power supplies can't last forever. I mean, they're good quality, but to have brand new alternatives out there is a really great option. So thanks to those guys for posting these links. I bought 2 to use in the lab here. One is just always going to be left on the rack for whenever I have new consoles or for my Famicom, and this one's going to always be over in my soldering test station. So Steve from HDRetrovision already put these on a scope, and I will also be doing some real world testing just to verify, but it looks like we have a winner so far. So thanks to those guys. Oh, and also the HDRetrovision cables. I forgot about that. Sorry, guys. It looks like the progress is steady. It's exactly what they had said. They're still expecting summer release for the cables again. And the adapters for the Saturn and the Neo Geo AES will be released with it. And still a delay on the PlayStation 1. But still looking like all of those things are on target for the summer. And I'll let everybody know when there's an actual sale release date for them. Badass Consoles just tweeted that he's wrapping up final approvals for the GameCube VideoX, the plug-and-play version. So I think prototypes will probably be in within a few weeks, and then I'm not sure how soon until they ship. I do think his original estimates were a little bit ambitious, but there's definitely steady progress being made. The last I spoke to him, I think he was supposed to have started the internal installs this week, but I haven't really spoke to him in a while, so I got to follow up. I just figured I would pass on the info of the tweet. And I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like a whiny asshole, but could you guys not email me asking to email him? I'm sorry, I hope that doesn't come off as too dickish, but I probably get 5 or 6 emails a week saying, hey, can you email Michael for me and ask about my order? And I get a couple that says, hey, I don't have the time to sign up for Twitch, so can you just email him for me? And those kind of annoy me because you have the time to send an email to me, which is about as long as it would take to sign up for a free service. So I don't know. I guess maybe I shouldn't be annoyed because I had Michael on and I was doing, some promotion for him through that, but I'll tell you guys when I hear everything, but I don't talk to him all day long, and if I did even, I really wouldn't want to get involved in his business and his customer service, because it's his business. So yeah, respectfully, please don't email me asking about it, because I just honestly have nothing to do with it other than I'm a fan of the work, and I let everybody know when I hear any updates. Next, Video Game Perfection is now selling the McWill screen kits, and I believe they're also offering installation, which is really awesome, because I think they might be the first store that actually has the kits up for sale. Otherwise, you used to have to just go direct through McWill himself. And I'm a huge fan of the kit. I did a full review on it. The VGA output's great, the RGB output's good, and the screen itself is just mind-blowing. The aspect ratio can be a hair off, but to be honest, it's one of the few times where I just don't care at all. It doesn't really bother me too much, and especially if you were to play take 5 minutes and play the first level or two of Sonic 1 on a regular Game Gear, and then switch over to the McWill one. There's just no comparing the two. I mean, it's a must-have for any huge fan of the Game Gear. So definitely pick one up if you've been waiting, and especially if you're in the UK, because that way it's easy to get the installation service. But it's a great product and I really love mine. Next, it looks like 8BitDo have updated the firmware for all of their controllers to work with the Nintendo Switch. I wasn't able to test it myself because their website had pretty much crashed after tweeting about it. So if anybody has any of those controllers and want to use them on the Switch, definitely give it a shot. Next, I saw kind of a cool feature posted about the Game Boy interface, but I wasn't able to get it working properly. So I guess Cameron1986 had just posted that he got the button mapping working with both the Game Boy interface and Swiss. So you boot into Swiss, you set the button mapping, and then you launch the Game Boy interface. And this is pretty huge because I use some of the RAFnet adapters that allows you to plug a SNES controller into a GameCube. But when doing that with the default mapping, you don't get a select button. So you either have to have another controller sitting next to you, or unplug and replug. So it's kind of annoying. But with this button combination or the button mapping working, you could have just like a true experience of a SNES controller with a Game Boy Advance game on it. So if anybody has any other info, or if they want to let me know what I'm doing wrong, because I have a feeling maybe it's just a dumb mistake that I'm making, please check out the link and let me know what to do, and I'll do a quick little video on it. Earlier today, I invited Ben from iFixRetro to come into the shop to test an SD to SNES upgrade. And before I go any further, I don't want to ramble, but I just got to say, it is so cool to be able to have a place where I can just invite a modder in. I have all the tools here and ready, and we could work on a project and not constrained by space or anything else. So thank you guys so much again for your help in all this. But to the point, just to reiterate from a few weeks ago, the SD to SNES is the ROM cart that supports MSU audio. And if you have the latest version, it's perfect. But if you have older versions, your MSU audio might either be a little crackly or not loud enough. So an upgrade, I guess, was posted so that you could buy a chip and do it yourself. But Borti actually created an upgrade board just for this purpose. So Ben today made a handful of the boards and then did the install on mine to test, and it came out great, and it sounds awesome. We had a few people here, and everybody were kind of going nuts over the quality of it. Really good. So if anybody's interested, he made a few, but I think he has another few on order. So contact him. I have the links below. It's just iFixRetro. And I guess he's going to try to get a bunch in. So maybe if do an interest check, he could order the boards and then start do it as a mail-in service, I guess. But if you don't have the latest version, which I believe is revision H, I really think it's a worthy mod to do. I mean, I loved my SD to SNES before this, and if yours was working perfect, you still get a little bit of audio increase to it. But if you have one of the revisions where the audio is a little crackly, this is almost kind of a must-do, and I don't think he's charging very much for it. So. And also, just a quick little callback to last week. While Ben was here, I actually had him replace the 7374 chip on my G-SCART because I'm very out of practice for modding, so I didn't want to mess with my G-SCART switch. And he used a hot air rework station to swap out the chip, and then we put in the low-pass filter mod, which that mod itself is super easy. It took much longer to reassemble the case with all the screws than it did to do that mod. So if anybody wants to do it, I'll put a picture up here, and if I ever get a chance to do another one, which, yeah, I'll probably just use Cousin Scott's and do it. But I think it's great for people that that need that much control. For me, especially, I want the low pass filter on whenever I'm doing direct recording into a capture card, but pretty much any other time I'd want it off because it's not necessary in the RGB monitors, and when I'm running through my open source scan converter, that's already got a filter built in. So definitely, if you need that much control over your filters and your output, take a look at the link, and I'll hopefully have like a short video on it soon. And I think the biggest thing for me is just finding the correct switch to use and a good place to mount it. I'm going to be doing a custom case for my G-SCART, so I kind of just have the switch hanging out for now. If any of you guys who are much better modders and have these great ideas can think of a good way to mount that switch without cutting or anything like that, would be awesome. It's pretty much any 3-pole switch. So thanks to Ben for coming over and helping me with that stuff, thanks for doing the G-SCART for me so I didn't have to get scared and potentially ruin my favorite switch. And if anybody needs any of that stuff, just contact iFixRetro. And lastly, I did a video last week with Voltar about messy mod work, and if anybody's interested, it's kind of a long video, but for whatever reason, it actually seems to go pretty fast. But basically, it just showcases my shitty mod work for when I was either doing experiments or just starting out, and we use it as an example for what to look for when you're buying pre-modded consoles, or basically what to avoid. But we also go into detail about why I did the mods that way, and why it was wrong, and what's the correct way to do it. And I've already gotten some feedback feedback from a bunch of people that said it helped them have a different perspective on it, which was awesome. That was exactly my goal. I mean, I hope people got a bit of a laugh at some of the really bad stuff, but basically, I mean, I really just wanted a way to show people what to look out for and, you know, better ways to do things without singling anybody out and picking on anybody. There's a few really terrible ones out there that are terrible modders out there that give everybody on eBay a bad name, because there's a lot of guys on eBay that do great work too, but you know, I've still debated back and forth whether to call them out. I just I wanted us to stay positive and not, you know, not turn into a bash fest or something. But there are 4 notorious modders out there that are just awful, that everybody should stay away from. And then there's a bunch popping up here and there that, you know, I think they could just they think they could probably make a few extra bucks off of this, sell some terrible consoles, and then disappear. So it's very common to see really bad work sold on eBay. So if you have time, take a look at the video, take a look at the examples, and now you'll know exactly what to look out for, and also why some of the better mod techniques are helpful and really end up with a better solution overall. So I hope you guys enjoy that one. Now on to the Q&As. I got an email from my buddy Nick that showed a Logitech promotional video in which they claimed the wireless mouse technology they're using can technically be faster than wired. So I thought that was pretty cool. Through my years of being in an EMI chamber and doing a bunch of testing for that company I worked for, I could definitely tell you for a fact that wireless interference will always be a problem regardless of speed. It's just whether or not that affects you or not. You know, if you're in a house in the middle of nowhere, no problem. But, you know, you're in the middle of a crowded area with a bunch of wireless networks and wireless devices, you know, that might actually be an issue. But I thought it was really cool. You know, and although it was definitely a promotional video, it kind of gave a different perspective on wireless technologies in general, and especially for controllers and gaming. I mean, what if technically you can get a wireless controller that sent a signal, you know, a fraction of a millisecond faster than a wired controller? You know, is that reverse lag? I'm being facetious. Don't start a hate post down below. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting and definitely worth posting. So thanks to Nick for sending it. Next, in some more follow-up to last week's controller extension cable wireless controller talk, Borti actually chimed in as well. And for wireless controllers, he said that the wireless protocol between the receiver and controller adds lag in the processing chain. So in the SNES example, a very good controller-receiver pair implementation adds half a frame of lag. So I guess to what we were just talking about with Nick's Logitech example is you would actually have to have in the console as part of the console's makeup as well as the controller in order to get less lag or the same lag as wired, which certainly would be possible in the future, but I just don't see it happening for retro consoles. And he also commented about controller extension cables. He said the console pulls the controller, so as long as the console is able to get information from the controller correctly, there's no lag in the processing chain added. And the example he gave was that the SNES pulls the controller every 16 milliseconds, so 1 time per frame. And due to the extension cables, signals are delayed. However, as long as the data for a certain button doesn't pass something like 800 kilometers long, which is how long it would take to pass 1, or 16 milliseconds, then you won't see any delay. If for whatever reason you do, it's about 1 frame, and that would have to be a very long cable. So it looks like you don't have to worry about lag with a controller extension cable. One thing you would have to worry about is I did say last week that I tried my Super Scopes adapter through an extension cable and it didn't work. And somebody had also actually posted that the reason it didn't work was because the controller extension cable doesn't have every pin populated, and the Super Scope actually does use all of the pins. So I guess that solves that riddle. So thanks to you guys for chiming in on that. Next, Uzmaki82 was asking what's the proper solder to use with flux? And it's actually a really good question. So your solder should always match your flux, ideally. I just updated the tools section of my site with links to this stuff. So you could basically either get a flux pen or that no clean flux that I like, and then just mix it with the correct solder and everything should be perfect. That solder made by Kester is kind of expensive. And you know, the big jug of no clean solder is a little expensive, but a little much. So I guess I would say that if you really think that you're only going to mod one console, like maybe just add a chip to an N64, an RGB chip, of course, definitely use flux. Absolutely buy a flux pen. No doubt in my mind that's worthy. I mean, it just makes everything so much better. But, you know, maybe hobby store solder really wouldn't be the end of the world. I'm sure the guys from the Retro Roundtable are going to rip my head off for saying this, but I can't in good faith tell somebody that might be okay with electronics that they need to spend, you know, $70 on stuff just to mod their N64. But keep in mind, this is yet another reason why I always recommend that if you're on the fence about doing it yourself, just have it done by a modder that, you know, that's known in the community to do good work, because, you know, the quality of their equipment and the stuff that they use is really a big part of making the mods look good, like we talked about in that messy mod work video. But yeah, if you plan on doing, I would say if you plan on doing more than one, you know, there's probably a chance you might do more than that eventually. Invest in some good solder, some good flux, and, you know, a decent soldering station. You could definitely get them for, you know, $50 or $60. So definitely check out the tools page if anybody has any suggestions on that as well. I hadn't updated it in a while, but yeah, great question, and try to always have your flux match your solder. And lastly, Paul Wood asked, when you're talking about lag on the Raspberry Pi, do you mean emulation slowdown or frame lag? So when I'm talking about any kind of lag on the Pi, what I'm specifically talking about is the lag introduced by software emulation. Of course, whatever display you hook it up to, there's that lag. So CRTs is 0, good flat screens are about 2 frames, and then the bad flat screens are 5 and 6 frames. What I'm actually talking about is the emulation lag, because you need to run an emulator on top of an OS stack and then get it out through a graphical interface. So it's, you know, I think it's on average of 2 frames of lag are added. But I do know for a fact that some things create more lag than others. And a good example of this is the Retron 5, is all of their cores are pretty laggy, but some are much worse than others. So, and I'm not sure how that would work with MAME. So I could say that maybe a SNES emulator would have more lag than the Genesis, or vice versa. I'm just kind of pulling names out of a hat. But with MAME, I'm not really sure. Is it that one game could have more lag than another? And I think it's possible because of, you know, any kind of frame or sync frequencies or anything like that. But, you know, there's a lot more research that needs to be done in this. And there's actually somebody on the arcade forums that seems to be a really, you know, I guess I would say an expert on emulation lag and MAME. And I'm trying to get a hold of him. I can't find his email address, and I'm having a hard time creating an account at the arcade forums. So hopefully I can get him on for an interview someday to talk about all this stuff, because I'm kind of fascinated by it. And I do also hope one day to build a little lag test rig to test this stuff myself. It's just a lot harder than I thought it would be. So good question, but to answer your question, I'm just talking about emulation software lag, not video lag or anything. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. I noticed that I've been out of focus sometimes in some of these videos. I'll work on that for next time. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, a new desk, everything's at a different angle and stuff. So I'll get all that stuff worked out as quickly as I can. Once again, please let me know about the echo and everything. And also, I got my iPhone camera working long enough to take a quick little video of the office. So I will leave you guys with that at the end for the people watching on YouTube. And once again, just thanks to everybody for all your help. And now that I'm just about caught up and moved in, I would think by next week I'm going to have everything back to normal. Maybe an extra video, back to having a guest, you know, or an interview or something. So it's just going to take me a little while longer to get back on my feet and get settled in here. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next week with a clearer camera and you know, everything else. So I'll leave you with a video tour of the office, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay guys, here it is. It is RetroRGB office, sort of kind of finished. So obviously I have my my soldering station right there with an awesome 14-inch monitor. I think that's the 14M2U, my desk space for working. And then this awesome little area in the corner. So at the moment, the only consoles that are gonna be permanently here are Genesis, SNES, and Famicom, because those are the ones I use by far the most. And then there's always gonna be a space here for whatever it is I'm working on next. I just got some crappy TV here just because it was really cheap, and it just always comes in handy. And also I don't mind turning it on and off for a lot, because if it breaks, I'll just get another one. Got a comfy couch for gaming. And then I guess over here is all of the storage area. Cool little table and chairs if I ever have in-person interviews. So this is all my stuff from that you saw on the back of the other videos, and this is all my consoles and everything else. They're starting to overflow, so over here in this back corner I'm actually going to be getting 2 new racks soon, and those are to keep the RGB monitors a little more organized. I actually could see here I got the Mitsubishi Megaview 40-inch, 20 D series, a 20-inch A series BVM. That's the 20 M2U monitor, my first RGB monitor back there. A little 8-inch. This is actually a flight case for the BVMs, which might come in handy someday. 32-inch D series BVM. That thing is amazing, and a bunch of artwork I still have to put up. And then, you know, just all my storage areas and some more workspace. And over here is a sneak peek on many of the projects that I'll be working on soon. So other than a huge lack of artwork on the walls, a couple more racks, and a few more tweaks, this thing is pretty much done. So hopefully, hopefully this means a ton more content and a lot more quality content. I haven't really figured out a green screen solution yet, but for most of my work it's not really necessary. It would just kind of make it a little better. So hope you guys enjoyed the little sneak peek, and hopefully someday I can just have events and have people come hang out and try some of these RGB monitors. So thanks again.